Or just get people's DNA, and then you know what they're predispositioned to get injured from or allergic to or affected by. And this is one reason why the Chinese have been doing their damnedest to get as many COVID tests as they can back to China so they could harvest the DNA of all the Americans. And there's also other crazy incidences.
What's the source on that?
This is the FBI, according to the LA County Sheriff, who came out and said that he's not going to be participating with the COVID test because they're linked to a company that's connected to China that is data harvesting and taking people's DNA.
Okay.
But that's
we have the source. We have the source. Just keep talking.
I got a gajillion other things to say. I feel like Emperor Palpatine. It's just
real quick. I want to be very careful because when we say things that
got to back it up. Yes,
there's going to be a lot
particularly in this area,
right? I'm telling you, when people listen to this on iTunes or whatever, they're going to be like, "What?" NPR. February 24th, 2021. China wants your data and may already have it. This is talking about COVID, and they said that, as COVID cases begin to rise, a Chinese company contacted several U.S. states and offered to set up testing labs. As a byproduct, the Chinese firm Beijing Genomics Institute would likely gain access to the DNA of those tested. February 24, 2021, from All Things Considered, NPR. This is as mainstream corporate press as you get. China is getting your DNA.
Yes, and when they get your DNA, they could game the big pharma market, but also in the kind of levels of dirty bombs or biological weapons, they could lead the world in setting off something on the world that can only affect a specific amount of populations with a specific gene sequencing. So the level of warfare that we're dealing with, I would say we are already at war, but information fifth generational warfare is a lot more powerful than bullets. And Steve, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if you know about this or not. There was also a lot of crazy incidences reported with American ships, nuclear ships, literally just being turned off, and a lot of the people not knowing what was going on.
You mean by cyber attacks?
Yes. Not just cyber attacks, but also just in the water, and then something flies over, and then the military ships are just turned off and they can't turn on. There's also some theories about aliens intervening and stopping nuclear warfare. So there's a lot of different things out there. I'm just interested in what you heard about it personally yourself, being inside of the White House.
Real quick on that. We had those stories about those lights, those weird drones or whatever following the battleships. It's very likely these are just this is just technology that exists that can
EMP
disable
technology
or whatever. Who knows what it is? We don't need to get specific. Technology exists that can disable our
What's
weapons.
your clearance?
Steve,
something practical. I think you're going to see polling that's going to come out. I think people are going to get in to start polling. And if Biden thinks his numbers are low now, wait to they start polling people on, do you support sending in combat troops to the Ukraine? People are going to go, where's the Ukraine? Where is that again? This is the uniparty. This is the elites that rule us so far ahead of the American people. Because you know what? Hunter Biden and Hunter Biden's kids aren't going to be there. Wicker's kids are not going to be there. Okay, this is once again the deplorables that are going to get deployed to a part of the world we've got no business in. Okay?
I think it's fair to say mostly it will be the deplorables' children.
100%.
But I will say, I want to stress there's going to be a lot of regular, poor, working class families who are going to suffer from this. It's not just the deplorables.
Well, deplorables are poor working class families. That's why I say
we should start calling them the deployables.
No. But look. The deplorables was used as a reference to the people who are supporting the populist movement, Trump specifically. But there's going to be
100%
politically uninitiated regular Americans.
Working class Americans and the poor and the sons and daughters of the poor. That's just going to get so they don't care. Remember,
wait, you said they don't care. No, they want and encourage it.
No, the elites don't care.
What I mean is, I would actually take it one step further and say the elites want and encourage the poor to be shipped off to go fight bloody wars.
100%.
It's not that they don't care; it's that they revel in it. They're glad it's happening.
That's why people have to stand up and say, "No more, no mas. This is absurd."
You think there's an intentional? They want the Americans and the Russians to fight so that the Chinese take currency control. Basically, you think this is the Davos plan?
I think the Davos have this hatred because remember, the Soviet Union and a lot of these cultural Marxists and people that are associated with these things still would love the Soviet Union to be around. They hate Putin because he's a nationalist, right? He's very traditional. Okay, it's a lot of reasons they say Salvini and a lot of people, Le Pen and the people in Europe, like him because he's more or find they have an affinity to him because of his nationalist tendencies. It's one of the reasons the Uniparty hates him. And like I said, they're bad guys. They're all from the KGB. They're all oligarchs. It's completely a corrupt system, right? It's a country in a demographic death spiral. Economy the size of New York. Doesn't make anything technologically that the world wants, but it's got some of the best hackers in the world. Right,
yeah.
and by the way, tons of nuclear weapons, very sophisticated on defense.
Syrian hackers were actually based in Moscow.
When the Soviet Union split, did all the nukes go to Russia, or most of them go to Russia? Or did they go all over the place?
The only ones I think that didn't go to Russia were the ones in Kazakhstan. I think the guy that the ruler of Kazakhstan is the only guy that really turned them into plowshares. Right,
wow.
The rest of them all went back to the to basically Russia. They don't think anybody else got rid of him except the guy in Kazakhstan. But look, the KGB guys are dangerous. But the Uniparty hates Putin. But that's one of the reasons Putin is butting up to the CCP. Now they've got that unified thing. They've got, and look, we're hitting 3 geopolitical crises at the same time. You have the South China Sea in Taiwan. Actually, you have the Northwest frontier in India. You've got this nuclear deal with the Iranians that is totally coming unwound. And now you've got the Ukraine. And all these we're forcing these, except for what we should be forcing, which is Taiwan in the South China Sea, and we gotta take a stand in Taiwan. If we lose Taiwan, what's Silicon Valley West?
What's the Northwest frontier in India?
That's up in Afghanistan. That's where Pakistan.
Yeah. In the Himalayan mountains, already the Chinese Indians and Chinese have been fighting killing each other
for about 2 years. Yep. And by the way, I think they're kind of on. What I hear is that the Indian Army is on much higher alert up there than they're letting on. That's a friction point. And think about it. The CCP has come down and surrounded India down in Burma, right? Or Myanmar with that revolt there. So they're trying to isolate India. India is the key that picks the lock in our Indo-Pacific strategy.
What happens come, Trump, you think Trump's running again?
I know he's running again. He's going to win again.
So Trump's running.
He's going to win the presidency for the 3rd time. Can I say that on YouTube? He's going to win the presidency. He's going to win the presidency for the 3rd time in 2024.
Well, Trump is not the president. Joe Biden is the president.
An illegitimate president.
And if Donald Trump runs again, do you think India comes and works with them? We know that Modi and Trump were good friends.
Yes, and they're both nationalists. And I think that yes, Modi and Trump. The biggest event Trump's ever had in the country was Howdy Modi, down I think it was in Houston, 50,000 people. Yeah, right. I mean, Modi and Trump are very close, and not just that, we're closely aligned. Right. He understands that Trump is the one person who's ever stood up to the Chinese Communist Party. Trump is running in 2024. Trump is going to win in 2024.
But hold on. I think
enough of your audience heads blown up.
Well, as soon as you bring up the election stuff, we are completely obligated to address it.
Okay,
we absolutely have to. We'll be deleted off YouTube in 2 seconds because of that conversation. And so, what I'll say is, it's frustrating for me the level of optimism that I don't want to tell people not to be optimistic, but in 2020, and we talked about this in the member segment last time you were here. When my skateboarder friends who work on minimum wage and can't tell you the name of not even one Supreme Court justice, let alone define what it is, are making TikTok videos of them voting by mail, and then I'm going back to like my friends, and all of them are like fervently supporting Joe Biden today. Some of these people have left the country.
Wow.
So
hold the crew, the skateboard crew, and some of those guys?
I know a couple people who have already left the country. And it's not necessarily because they were like, oh no, Biden's so bad. It's more like, wow, like this is not a fun place to live. I need to find something better. And I don't think they correlate their actions in supporting Joe Biden in 2020 with what's happening now. So I will just stress, in my experience, we had.
I know you and I disagree with this. I want to tell YouTube that Tim is adamant that Joe Biden won. He's been adamant with Joe Biden. And so it's a deeply held belief of yours.
Look, I'm not going to pretend like I have all the answers to everything, but I will say that when we've had our conversations with people like Matt Brainerd several times, there's always been here's what we think, not here's what we know. And so my attitude is what Republicans have done poorly is ground game. And I'll tell you, I think one of the biggest impacts on the 2020 election was universal mail-in voting, not because of any kind of fraud. I certainly think, like what Bill Barr said, yeah, there's fraud. We don't think there's that. Is there enough? And I've not had anybody come to me. You've got wild and crazy accusations from people like Lindell and Sidney Powell. But when it comes to the more like, we want to do a forensic audit, nothing definitive has come out to the point where it's been laid out. But I will say this: I want
to keep you on YouTube. let's have that conversation in your silent behind the wall chat or some other time, because I can walk you through from Wisconsin to Georgia to Maricopa County. Not do it tonight, but we'll do. I'll get Navarro and we'll walk you through the whole thing, chapter and verse.
We had Navarro here too.
Yeah,
and
he
definitely
loved
we should do a big conversation. But I will say this. One thing to consider, absolutely. First, I have my anecdotal evidence being someone from Chicago and knowing tons of people who were just they couldn't tell you what Supreme Court justice meant. They're like, I don't know what that is, and I'd be like, okay, well, seriously, they don't.
Yeah.
These are minimum wage workers. They skateboard. They don't understand or want to understand. But I'm watching these people post videos. One guy filmed himself in first person with his mail-in ballot to go to, and I'm like, these people were they were locked down for a year. The only thing they ever heard was Orange Man bad over and over again, and everything that you're suffering from is his fault. Here's what I think happens. When you have a dense urban population, like New York City, where you've got these big buildings with, 1,000 people live in it, you can get 2 Democrat activists, go door to door and say, see that mail-in ballot, sign it, fill it out, I'll wait. But when you're talking about Republican voters in suburbs...
Or I'll just take that mail-in ballot and I'll fill it out for you.
Perhaps. But Republicans can't do that. You're in a suburb, you're going to go drive door to door. The amount of houses that a Republican on ground game could get to advocate for universal mail-in voting is substantially lower, orders of magnitude lower. Dense urban populations where you don't need to walk more than 20 feet to knock on the next family's door, whereas in rural areas, you might have to drive maybe like 2 or 3 blocks to get to the next house. That is the level of ground game that I think needs to be focused on. When they come out and they say the shadow campaign and here's what we did, I think it's very important you pay attention to that. And keep that in mind moving into the next election. And I agree with Mike Cernovich, too. When Trump came out and started talking about all this fraud, it was effectively voter suppression because they convinced people not to go out and vote. So I look at this 2 ways. We've had multiple people on talk about this. I have not been convinced. And then we've also seen the detriment to future elections because of the narrative that there's no point. And I think that is something we need to avoid. So that's why I'm kind of like, let's just tell people.
That's why you got to get to the bottom of 3 November. You get to the bottom of 3 November. You saw this in Virginia. We had 95%. See, this is the false narrative of the left. Today they're all on MSNBC all day. They got the long faces because why? We're getting people to take over school boards. We're getting people to sign up to be precinct committeemen. We're getting people to take over election boards and to take over the county clerkships, either volunteer or by voting. But Democrat, all democracy, all small d Democrat. And they can't stand it. They have every branch of government. They have the media. They have high culture, low culture, middle culture, pop culture, universities, all of it. And they're freaked out because the American people now are stepping up and doing this. In Virginia, we had 95% participation as election officials and by poll watchers, 95%. In 2020, 33%. The last gubernatorial race, 27%. The Republicans are not going to allow ever again, not with new laws, we don't need new laws, but to get to the bottom of November 3rd and to make sure that never happens to us again. Okay?
I say it this way.
Remember, last November, in November 2020, we had sweeping victories across the country. Villages in Connecticut. Miami. We had Long Island. The Villages of Connecticut. You had the county prosecutor,
look.
city prosecutor in Seattle.
I think we should definitely do a much longer issue because I don't want to detract from the news we're talking about. But I do have to say, when you see the suburban housewives voting Republican in Virginia, what was it, like a 30-point swing? They don't like Trump, man. I think it's. You see this victory for the Republican in Virginia when it's not Trump, but it's a lot of the same
But
policies.
This is also the Orange Man bad thing. I think is over. The other thing is people. I think they can live with mean tweets now. Okay,
I
because
agree.
That's what the 26% right track, wrong track with the the right track with the 2 handle in front of it. It's unheard of.
Yeah.
Nixon when Nixon walked across the lawn and took the helicopter out of there, I think it was 2/3. I think it was still 33 or 35% approval. He wasn't in the 20s. People are seeing recklessness, they're seeing incompetence, and most importantly, they're seeing that they don't respect us. You've seen everything that happened on Capitol Hill. Look at this thing with Ukraine. All of a sudden, Ukraine comes out of nowhere, and in 24 hours, we're talking about maybe tactical nuclear weapons, right? There's no respect for the American people to sit there and say, hey, here's our plan, here's our policies, here's what we're trying to accomplish.
Here, let's do this. So I think we disagree on only some, but I want to have a conversation with you. We'll do this in the member segment where you can walk us through.
Well, let's not do it tonight. I want to get Navarro and take time on your member section. We'll walk through. We'll bring the charts of the state. I think it's something you guys see graphically, but let's actually go through the details in Wisconsin and other things, and people can understand what we say about.
Well, I want to talk about another really big factor in what's going on today and what also went down in 2020, and that's media collusion. Because we have this tweet from Oliver Darcy. Look, hey man, shout out to Oliver Darcy for actually putting this out here. He said, some news in reliable sources. Senior White House and admin officials have been holding briefings with major newsrooms over the past week as they try to reshape economic coverage. The White House, not happy with the news' media coverage of the supply chain and economy, has been working behind the scenes trying to reshape coverage in its favor. Senior White House and admin officials, including NEC Deputy Directors David Kamen and Bharat Ramamurthy, along with Ports envoy John Porcari, have been briefing major newsrooms over the past week, a source tells me. The officials have been discussing with newsroom trends pertaining to job creation, economic growth, supply chains, and more. The basic argument that has been made. The country's economy is in much better shape than it was last year. I'm told the conversations have been productive, with anchors and reporters and producers getting to talk with officials. To put it simply, they're having secret meetings behind your back because they want the press to change the narrative on the garbage economy, and you're suffering.
This is what they did with Afghanistan. He wanted the Afghani president to tell everyone things were going just fine.
White Houses do background briefings to people to make sure they can understand the complexities of issues, right? And help the media be smart and when they address it. That is not what this is. This is the fact that they have now spent how many trillions of dollars on bills that they've passed to juice this economy, and it's dead. If you take the printing machine away from these clowns, this economy is going to implode, and they know it. Okay, that's why they're up there today with Mitch McConnell and the Republicans doing a gimmick to get relief on the debt ceiling. Okay, now what Darcy's outing them on is that they're back now because they got to have the media work with them to sell it to the American people. Remember, they're talking on the talk shows all week. The media is not, or Psaki said, the media is not doing. You're not doing a good job of selling our program.
Yeah. Yep.
Now they need a media partner to sell it. Okay, because every time you see anything with metrics like the jobs report last week, which was what, less than half of what the jobs report, and people got to remember, this is with a massive infusion of cash. They say it's different than last year. Yeah, you've had another $3 trillion, another $2.5 or $3 trillion has been juiced into the system. Okay, and yes, it's a lot worse than last year.
Have you seen this before?
I can't. I don't have my glasses on.
The M1 money supply.
Oh yeah, right there.
I love it. Right around the starts of the pandemic, they instituted a change in reporting where they said your savings accounts are now basically checking accounts, which causes the money supply to explode by several 100%. But they try and argue. They always say to me, Tim, you don't understand that huge spike is just a change in reporting because savings are now. And okay, well since then, look at this spike. We went from, what do we got here? 16,583, and that's in what, billions, I think it is? Billions of dollars. And now it's at 20,000 billions of dollars. In the span of, what do we got? We got from June 2020 till October of 2021. We have jumped $4,000 billion in the money supply. That is massive.
This is fiat money. This is the reason they have forced you. I tell people, it's you right now. And I'm not telling you to buy gold and silver or platinum, and I'm not telling you to buy crypto. But here's what I am telling you: you on your own have better get smart on your own. Sit there, do your study, talk to people, because they're forcing you. They're destroying the U.S. dollar in front of our eyes, and they're destroying it for generations to come. If they get this spending done, the $7 trillion programmatically that you can't take back, every person in this audience under 45 years old, you better start to look for another store of value than the U.S. dollar. You either got to look at precious metals or you got to have to look at crypto because they've destroyed. It's there. This is the machine. The machine right now is out of control. And you can see. Look, let's talk facts. Look at this gimmick. Tonight, the one piece of leverage the deplorables have is the debt ceiling. Right, they got to come to you and get 60 votes to kind of push the debt ceiling. You've got them by the short and curlies, and so tonight, as we sit here, they've got a gimmick up there to do it with 51 votes. So they increase it, and the Republicans don't have to take any hits for it. And it can go on. They need, and remember, they can't sell enough bonds to the Japanese and to the Chinese or to the insurance companies, right? They can't raise taxes. Taxes, all revenues to the government's around $3.5 trillion, right? They need that huge gap, which is $1.5 trillion a year in perpetuity, plus all these other crazy programs that are half-baked and they haven't thought through. That comes from printing money, okay? And that is on, people think it's free. It's not free. It's the full faith and credit of the United States of America. That would be this audience, okay? That is on your shoulders, okay? And that is what's going to destroy us. It's out of control, and the uniparty takes care of themselves. That's why you have Wicker up there saying, yeah, we're thinking about combat troops and tactical nuclear weapons. The uniparty, the party of Davos, the Wall Street, the global woke corporations, and the guys they paid in Washington, D.C.
What do you think happens to property value?
Well, I think right now, that's why I think, look, with zero interest rates, this is the scam. They have interest rates artificially low, near zero. The assets are increased. That's why you had the concentration coming off of the crash in 2008, the greatest concentration of wealth, because what they did, they took the balance sheet of the Federal Reserve from $880 million to $4.5 trillion, infused it with liquidity, the system with liquidity, assets blow up. Trump called in 2012, best time to buy stocks or real estate. It's coming right now. The same thing's happened. This is why we've had this greatest concentration of wealth ever since the CCP virus. And it's going to continue. As soon as they stop, as soon as they cut the machine off, the stock market will collapse.
Thanks for checking out this segment from the Timcast IRL podcast. If you want to watch live, you can check out this channel Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Now, don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, and if you want more unfiltered and uncensored content with all of these guests, go to timcast.com and become a member. All of these guests you know and love in exclusive segments on our website where we are unrestricted in what we talk about, so you'll definitely not want to miss it. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you all next time.